Welcome back to another episode of the Supply Chainy podcast. I am your host, Nathan Chaney, and today we're talking with Stephen, who's calling in from Atlanta, Georgia, and we're going to talk a little bit about pallets. But in meeting Stephen, I heard that he had a really interesting career through the supply chain, and those are the kind of stories I want to share on the podcast. And so I invited Stephen to come on, talk a little bit about what his supply chain career has been like, and maybe a touch on pallets, which very critical part of the supply chain, right? So Stephen, welcome to the podcast. And can you introduce yourself a little bit better than I just did?
Sure, you did a pretty good job, but it's good to be here, Nathan. Glad to join you. And I've been in and around the supply chain industry since 2011. Entered into a brokerage agent-based office back then after a 16-year career in automotive, and just jumped in right then and there. Cradle to grave type brokerage environment. Got some experience. Got recruited into XPO. Got recruited to go over there at carrier sales and really cut my teeth in building teams around specialized expedite, a lot of the freight that was a little bit tougher to handle, a little bit more detail oriented, high value type of things. Freight there had a lot of fun in XPO. I mean, that was really, really good experience having come into, something that Brad Jacobs was building and really early on at that point. But was over there for about 5 years, helped build quite a successful branch under the now CEO of RXO, Drew Wilkerson. And I learned a lot from him, working with him really closely and working with Brad, and really got into technology and helping build their the proprietary system, the TMS that they have, and spent a lot of time, just really consulting with the IT vision, helping them figure out like what works, what doesn't work, all the while building, a brokerage business into the 9-figure mark in the branch, and pretty dynamic to say the least, through all the mergers and acquisitions, and really got a lot of experience there. But that was a great learning experience. Left there, got recruited into a smaller brokerage to get some sweat equity and help build that business. That was really fun. Much smaller team, small 2-branch operation. Built that up from a sales perspective and a lot of hands-on operations throughout that for about 3 years before getting invited into a global company where I was tasked with being the president of the logistics division over there. Got invited to join the board of directors on an international scale, really working with the chairman was in Switzerland, had members in Germany and China. And that was right smack in the middle of COVID. So had a ton of moving parts, a lot to learn right there, really shifting and pivoting responsibilities. And that was also the bulk of that business was building container related software, marketplace for containers, tracking, tracing, really developing software, a lot of like what I was doing with XPO, but more on the container side of the business, international. So just, really had to learn a lot on the fly there in trying to get PPE equipment in from Asia, carpeting from Europe, all this different things that were going on and moving around during COVID. And, that was quite an adventure, to say the least. But probably the wildest thing about that is being part of a C-suite and on the board, and we wanted to make a move. The founder he was like a serial entrepreneur and really looking at a lot of different things going on, and his hands in a number of different businesses. So we expressed interest in buying the business from him. Myself and another 6 or 7 guys got together to make an offer for that, to buy the business from him. It was rejected. We were all let go at the same time, which really threw a wrench in the works of what our plans were. But that kind of spun off into a different business, which the group of the guys that I was with, all dating back to my early brokerage days at XPO. Most of us worked together there, and started another company that's very similar to that one. And I consulted on that and just really felt like my heart wasn't in it. So I had pulled out of that at that point to focus on mental health. I mean, I really had a tough go there, right? It was a time where I was just focused on trying to be an owner and trying to have equity in business. And I was really chasing the wrong things, not really focusing on what I was really talented at and what I was really focused on. Just chasing money and status and validation and things like that, which led me to really taking some time off, regrouping. Uh-huh. Yeah. But I had taken a break at that point and decided to be a stay-at-home dad for about five months in there.
Uh-huh.
While my wife, she pursued her teaching opportunity and she started working with special education and something she was really passionate about. So I was, took a break, got in shape, ran a lot, hired a trainer, just kind of refocused, tried to figure out like what it was that I really wanted to do. And I came to the conclusion that I really didn't want to be an entrepreneur, but I wanted to help build something special at that point. And I went through the whole recruiting process. I leveraged all of my relationships and in the industry. And really my heart was really within transportation and brokerage and wanted to really continue that, really accomplish something. But I wanted technology to be at the heart of what I was doing. And so I went and got a bunch of job offers and considered, what's going to move the needle for me, what's going to be best for my family. And I ended up joining a digital brokerage that had a really unique offering, and they wanted to start a team that was focused on mid-market sales and building it up to complement the enterprise business that they had. So I took that on, and that was a really good experience it was Transfix that I was with. And it was very challenging because it was at that point where a lot of VC money was starting to dry up in the industry, and the funds were getting cut back. They started to have layoffs. We really couldn't get to the point where we were building the business like we had hoped. And so I switched out of that team. I had switched into an independent contributor, individual contributor role. And throughout that time, it was a very, very challenging time in the industry at that point. And then I was subjected to being laid off at one point. And I was pretty discouraged at that, but I was feeling pretty good about where I was at personally. And that's what ended up leading me to PalletTrader. I was under a non-compete with them. So my options were relatively limited to staying in brokerage. But then a recruiter had brought me over to PalletTrader where I'd met this team. And since then I've been director of national sales, and now we're coming up on almost 2 years of that.
Gotcha. So I find really fascinating because I feel like, especially if you are in a sales type role, being able to see different perspectives and bring those perspectives to a client really adds a lot of value, in the conversation. Can we back up work life? Where'd you grow up? What'd you do? What were you like as a kid? What'd you think you were going to do when you grew up?
Yeah. Well, I grew up about 3 miles from downtown Boston. I was the youngest of 5 boys, very competitive, played baseball, football, a lot of more of a city type upbringing for me. So as a kid, I really wanted to be a firefighter. That was my dream, was to be a firefighter, because I wanted to be on the truck. I loved the excitement of going, chasing down something, helping people, taking care of them. And, became a lifeguard as a result of that, and was going to pursue that. I got a little bit deterred from chasing that dream when I realized how much money they made or didn't make, because I knew I wanted to make a lot of money. That was the goal. So at 14 years old, my father got me the city working permit. My friends and I would go door to door and knock on people's doors to get snow shoveling jobs. And landscaping jobs. I put an ad in the paper, and my mother would answer the phone, when people would call, and they, I'd be a cleanup, a kid. I'd ride my bike, use their equipment, or bring small stuff, get dropped off at their house. And, I saved up my money doing that so I could buy a mountain bike and go skiing and all sorts of stuff like that. But that was, I knew that at that point, I enjoyed working with people and helping people. And my brothers were in the auto industry. One of my brothers was pretty successful in the auto industry. So I started to follow that. I became a car salesman early on. I actually worked at Circuit City selling electronics.
Okay.
When I was right out of high school. I started in college, but man, school wasn't for me. I love sales, and I wanted to make money, and I couldn't see myself going into debt over, a degree, which I didn't even know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I that was kind of what led me into sales, and I was pretty successful at it. So that's kind of how I got there. Yeah.
Gotcha. I think to some degree, when you were in the transportation and being in the logistics world, I have to think back to my very first podcast episode, which was with my best friend Curtis, who has a Landstar agency. And in talking with him, he made a point, and it was kind of like the quote from the whole episode was, people ask what I do, and I tell them I'm a firefighter, because, in transportation and brokerage, all you do is put out
Constantly.
fires. So to be honest, you really did kind of almost fulfill that childhood dream.
Yeah, and it's somebody brought that up to me before, and I was like, wow, I guess what I really was doing was I kind of thrive in chaos,
Hmm.
and so like when my back's against the wall, I have success in doing that and overcoming adversity, which I'm no stranger to. So when you say that, that's absolutely true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I really applaud and actually appreciate you bringing up the lawn mowing gigs and the painting fences and pulling weeds. Like, that was also me. And honestly, I haven't thought about those days in a while, but it's very much a little bit of an entrepreneurial mindset, of what you were doing at such a young age, at 14, putting out ads. Like, that's pretty advanced thinking. So you were already kind of wearing a marketing and operations hat in your early teens. Can we jump a little bit forward? Because looking at some of your job titles, like at XPO, you had like a sales and operations sort of responsibility, which I appreciate, having been an operations guy most of my life and kind of having to suffer the expectations that the sales team has put on me. And I always thought, man, if these salespeople had just been in operations before, then they wouldn't, overpromise customers. Do you think there's like some strategic benefit to having that sales and operations kind of responsibility under one hat?
Yeah, I always came from the mindset that if you don't know how it operates, how can you really truly sell the service? Because what we're selling is not it's not the company, it's what happens within the company, right? So it's
Right.
I looked at it as, and that's why I started in cradle to grave was great experience. I had to not only hunt the business, but I had to make it happen at the same time, and no one was going to
Yeah.
do it but me. So when I came to XBO, my focus was on carrier sales, but Drew had recruited me over to the sales team because he had hired, almost 20, 25 different reps that were straight out of college. And one of the biggest challenges there is we grew because it grew to 15 branches really quickly within that company. And so one of the challenges was taking their, what they were selling, making promises out there that maybe they didn't quite understand and making it happen internally. So when I took on that role as sales and operations manager, it was to focus on bridging that gap between the two, because I was close with the carrier sales team and everybody that was making it happen. I had the track and trace team under my responsibility as well, which is about 25 different people, 3 shifts. And so everything I had my hands in every aspect of it. And that was, perfectly put, like under promise, over deliver. Like that's the name of the game, right? That's the only way that you're going to continue to earn that business. So I think it's essential for you to be in operations, to learn operations before you go and sell.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, agree. Just had Abby on the other day. She's currently at Shipmonk, and had a very similar type of suggestion. When I asked her, what advice would you give for any students today that are studying business and going into logistics and supply chain? And it was, her suggestion was, go work in a warehouse as soon as you can, like get that on the ground, managing the forklift drivers and the pickers and packers and stuff, so that later
Yep.
on in your career you can kind of leverage that experience and you have some real credibility when you're talking to someone. But whether you're a leader on the operations side of the business or in the sales side, it's just that foundational understanding of, this is where the rubber meets the road, and bringing that to those conversations.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time in warehouses. I have spent a lot of time in warehouses from the beginning. In fact, when I first started, and thinking about this just reminded me, when I first started in the industry, I drove straight up 85 in Charlotte. I was in Charlotte at the time. And I
Hmm.
drove straight up and I went to all the truck stops along the way that I could find. And I met and talked to drivers, knowing that I was going to have to sell freight to drivers to get them
Uh-huh.
to do it. So I would go and just have conversations with them. What do you like to haul? What do you hate to haul? What's your biggest pain points? Like going in and out of facilities. And I try to look at it from their perspective, just like now I'm looking at it. Even when I go to my clients today, I go on site, I see where the drivers park. I see where the people in the warehouse are going to be. What kind of forklifts are they using? Where are they stacking pallets? Like I look at all that stuff, and I talk to them to find out, what's going to make it better for you than what it is today. What do you like today? and try to make sure that it's not, I don't want to take anything away from anybody. You know, what's good and what's works is important. You want to keep that in place or just make it better. I'm always looking like, how can we improve this? And I think the best way to do that is working with the people that have their hands on the equipment itself. You know, being in the warehouse, being on the racks, you know, the people that are packing the goods, all that stuff. It all comes into account. So I mean, supply chain it's one big world that everybody has to live well within, right? So, yeah.
Yep. Yep. I mentioned a while ago about I typically ask folks, what suggestions do you have for students that are in business school and college and that sort of thing? And since you kind of took not that route, and rightly so, could you kind of give a little bit of advice for someone who's looking to not go that route?
Yeah, I think it would be really wise to meet people who you want to live like. I always like tell my kids, and like, how do you want to live, not what do you want to do? And when you see people that live a lifestyle like you aspire to have, ask them questions, interact with them, find out what they did to get where they are. Because John Maxwell says, if you want to do what I do, you have to do what I did. And if you don't do what I did, you can't do what I do. Right. And so it's like understanding that mindset of what these people that are successful in your mind are doing. In terms of college or no college, I think it's, if I knew then what I know now, I would have gone to college. I would have gone to the supply chain route. I don't even think it existed when I'm 46 years old. So this is 97.
It's a newer concept. It would have just been coming out. Yeah.
And so I've been around a lot of people that have now graduated from some of those programs. Like some of my friends that had graduated from Auburn Supply Chain School or Michigan State. Like I know I would encourage someone to, one, take a disc assessment, understand like what your personality is. You know, I think that's really important. Like, you know how you want to live. You need to know who you are and embrace the strengths within. Yep. You know, really figure out like what makes you tick, what makes you happy, and get you excited about life. Because work, really, it's not so much work if you really enjoy what you're doing. So my advice is figure out who you are, figure out how you want to live, and then pursue that. But absolutely, if supply chain, first of all, supply chain is everything. There isn't an industry that we don't touch, right? It's everything from entertainment to food to automotive, aviation, engineering, everything touches supply chain. So there is a spot for everybody in this industry. If they, you know, it's a great way to be a part of an industry, supporting an industry. So I would strongly encourage them. The other thing too, get on LinkedIn and follow people that are interesting. And there's a ton of content out there, free content that they have access to learn about. And I don't think you have to be, you know, a polished professional to be on the site either. Nope. You can just learn, right?
Yeah. It's a suggestion I give to folks as a way to kind of passively just keep up with what the chatter is and what people are talking about, because you see what folks are posting and in the articles they might refer to. Yeah. And so you kind of just can passively consume what's going on without going and reading a magazine or looking at big, long articles. You know, it's like little snippets of what's going on in the industry. And you don't have to be connected to somebody in order to follow them. So you can follow them and they'll still show up on your feed and you can see what they're talking about and what they're posting.
Yeah. What a time to be alive. We have access to so much information, so many people, hearing it directly from them. It's not just some polished campaign, right? Right. Like being able to like Jason Miller, for example, is phenomenal. Like I learned so much from him on a regular basis, right? Yep. And keep up, even though I'm not in brokerage, I still feel like I'm in transportation in that sense. Like I still have my eyes and ears on it through people like him. So
sure. You know, a couple stories you were talking about a while ago, trying to figure out what it is you want to do so you can find some direction. You know, I've had someone on the podcast recently that got all the way to the last 6 months of like a kinesiology pre-med sort of degree, was doing EMT stuff, riding the back of ambulances and realizing healthcare is not for me at all. Yeah. And now, you know, working in automation and robotics in warehouses, right? And then another story that I heard is some universities will force business students to literally kind of go through and take classes that are outside that are everywhere, accounting and finance and engineering and organizational behavior and HR, everything. And by doing that, it allowed that person to kind of figure out maybe where within the business world, because even just within business, there's so many seats you can sit in, right? And so that seemed really, really beneficial to your point about trying to force kind of yourself to be exposed to as many sort of different topics and concepts as early as possible, so you can find what that passion is or where there's a good fit. And that kind of applies probably to kids, as a parent, is like try to get your children exposed to as many things as possible, because if you don't get exposure, you will never know that you have like the next great piano player of the world if you never put a piano in front of them.
Right.
And that talent could be there the whole time. So any thoughts on that as we kind of move on from this like kind of career and education topic?
I would say fail. Get yourself out there to fail too. Like, don't be afraid of, you have to embrace failure and give it a chance. Don't chase money. That's one thing that I can say. Like I focused a lot on how much I could make, which is, that's great, but the money, in hindsight, learn as much as you can, soak in as much as you possibly can. And so taking lesser paying jobs to learn a new craft or learn something about the industry, you don't have to change, you have to move far away or anything. There's a lot of opportunities pretty much everywhere everybody is, but get out there and don't focus so much on the money. Live well below your means is crucial, I think, at a young age, because you want to be able to, when you see, a course, or you see a person to invest in, like a coach or someone like that, you want to be able to fund that, because really it's a matter of, it's all about learning experiences, especially early on. You never stop learning, but at that point, absolutely, take internships, connect yourself with people, because if you're interested in learning, the majority of people that are good at what they do, they're willing to share that, so take advantage of that. But learn communication skills too. You have to learn to communicate with people. Can't be on the phone nonstop. Can't be stuck in text messaging and, Instagram and TikTok and all that. Actually have conversations with people. It's really important.
To that point, my favorite book I'm looking at right here is called Connecting Happiness and Success. And so I really highly subscribe to the concept that if you do something that's fulfilling and that makes you happy, you're going to be good at it and you're going to be fulfilled by it. And then that will ultimately lead you to being successful at it in the long term, over the long run. Whereas the other way around, just, kind of pursuing just the paycheck and the success title and stuff, it kind of lacks that innate fulfillment that you get, that we crave as humans, and, to make a difference. And so in the long run, I think it's a less, successful route to go. So
definitely leaves a void. You can make all the money in the world, but if there's a void there, you're going to have to fill it. And it's better. I think it's better at a younger age. Then again, it's never too late either, right? You can make a change at any point, but certainly fulfillment is crucial. And I don't mean the celebratory, partying, like that's not fulfillment. Fulfillment's like it makes you feel good to wake up. Like I believe you shouldn't have a case of the Mondays. Like I like Mondays. I look forward to Mondays because it's a fresh start to the week, right? It's picking back up. It's like, okay, we just had reset on Sunday. I'm ready to go on Monday. And I look forward to that. Yeah. So, I think that's very important.
You're right. The whole, if you're always looking forward to Friday afternoon and you're regretting Mondays, then you need to reevaluate what you got going on, right?
Absolutely. Like you're in the wrong seat. You're in the wrong seat. If that's what if you're working for Friday afternoon and regretting having to get up on Monday morning, you're not living. That's how I look at it. Yeah.
Let's turn a little bit to what you do when you wake up on Monday mornings. What
Sure.
kind of a role, what seat do you sit in there at PalletTrader, and what do you all do in general?
Yeah, so my role is I'm the director of national sales at PalletTrader. So PalletTrader was started as an online marketplace, the first online marketplace for buying and selling pallets. It's the only aspect of the supply chain that wasn't digitized. So the founder of PalletTrader during COVID, like right as going through that, realized like when there was a real shortage of pallets that people were struggling to get them. How they were getting pallets was, Google and asking for friends and overspending and all that. So the founder, John Vaccaro, decided let's even the playing field and allow the several hundred suppliers that he had been doing business with over the last 40 years the opportunity to expand their reach by coming into a marketplace and then bringing buyers to them so that they can deal directly. So it's a self-serve marketplace, what PalletTrader is at the heart. And then what I do is I'm more on the enterprise level, upper mid-market level, the buyer side, where I'm helping strategize better pallet management practices. So I'll go into a business and take a look at how they're buying, what are they doing with them, how are they working through the warehouse, what's their end of life cycle look like, are they recycling them, are they selling them, are they just chucking them in a dumpster, and so we'll come up with a better plan for them. A lot of the companies that we deal with, whether they might be renting now, from a CHEP or a PAYCO or an IGPS, and we'll go in there and help them offset some of those extra fees that they're spending on the rental side with some whitewood or with plastic alternatives to own. So it's taken everything that I've ever done in brokerage and logistics, and now I'm touching all of that. So I had mentioned before, like part of my non-compete and leaving Transfix was I couldn't be in brokerage for a while. This comes up and it's like, okay, well now I can talk to every customer I've ever talked to in my life. I can help every customer I've ever helped in my life in this business. And now it's in a different way. And now I have a way, I partner with 3PLs and other brokers. So I like getting along with everybody. So pallets seems to be one thing that's in common. It's like the backbone of the supply chain, the one that most people don't think about, but really has a significant impact.
Sure. It's right there with boxes, right? And those other sort of consumable things that are just like a critical part of that every warehouse, every 3PL, every brand or manufacturer's got to contend with. Can you talk a little bit about what is the state of the art in pallets, and is there anything AI driven going on in the world of pallets these days, or can you catch me up on that side?
Yeah, so there's we don't have any AI at PalletTrader. We have a platform where you, as a buyer, you click a link, you open up, and you see everything that you need to see as far as pallet management is concerned. Like we're measuring what they're paying, how many they have, what we're doing with them. They're selling off a dashboard, customized dashboard that they can monitor all that. But we have a team behind them that does all the service for them. So we're doing the buying and selling for them in the case with PalletTrader Plus. Right now, is AI involved at some point? It might be. I mean, everybody likes to talk about AI, but I'm actually speaking to technology in the pallet field come at the Western Pallet Association at the end of January. So I don't want to give away too much of what my talk's going to be about, but it's going to be about how to leverage technology in the space. And a lot of suppliers, they're not using technology at all. I mean, they're still writing paper POs in some cases. Yeah. So on the buy side, even at the corporate level, using spreadsheets to track all this. Most of the customers that I connect with, they don't know what their pallet spend is. They have to ask somebody to go and pull reports and put it together. So at this point, a lot of the management in pallets is tracking spend and knowing like what happens to that. And so for one thing that's pretty cool about us is that we have sustainability metrics and landfill avoidance calculator in the dashboard. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of the ESG initiatives that are happening in the industry right now. We're able to help that. And it's funny because pallets they're like low on the totem pole. Like realistically, might be the last thing some procurement teams or some management teams are thinking about. So when I go in and show them there is a way to save, a way to cut costs, but there's a way to track it. There's a way, you can't manage what you can't manage, or you can't manage what you don't measure. Right.
Right.
And so we help companies do that. But yeah, AI in the pallet space it's coming at some point. It's not there yet.
Gotcha. So the concept of a marketplace, there's a handful of folks out there, not just pallets, right? But there's this kind of, I think, craving or a need out in the industry that when you have a lot of independent folks, like if you just think about owner operators of trucks, you've got all these independent entities and you need a marketplace like a Datboard or whatnot to have one marketplace for everyone to be able to kind of call the town center and go meet and transact at. And to some degree, that's a little bit what PalletTrader is, but for pallets?
It's similar. Yeah, it's very similar. It's a way to speed up the process, rather than making phone calls, sending emails. It's a way to set, you're almost like a storefront for suppliers. Mm-hmm. So It's very similar to what a load board would be like. That's a good way to put it. But it's more yeah.
Sounds like you've got for your customer, you've also got a dashboard to show what they have on hand and show whatnot. So it's almost like it's got a TMS, like an in-house TMS built into it. It's like that with a
Yeah.
TMS in it.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would add to that too is that with similar like a load board, you're not transacting in the load board. It's just a place to
Right.
interact, right?
Right.
Whereas with PalletTrader, you're able to conduct transactions that are all housed in there. So your invoices are all there. It is very similar to like a TMS, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Um, TMS meets load board kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like it. Yeah. I
And
like it.
that's what we use. Like our team, like in most of the companies out there they don't necessarily have the time or the resources to be in the self-serve aspect of the marketplace. So our team utilizes the marketplace to conduct transactions and bids. So running real-time RFPs or real-time bids throughout the day and tendering loads of pallets.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, we've talked a little about career. We've talked a little bit about lessons learned. We've talked a little bit about pallets. What have we not talked about today that you're passionate about, that you want to make sure that people take away from this conversation?
Yeah, I'd say, the last few years have been I've been in the personal growth journey, just really taking in a lot of information, reading a lot of books, just trying to become the best version of myself. I spent a great deal of time volunteering at a local furniture ministry called Fully Furnished Ministries, where I was a board member for about a year. I would say life is, you get what you give in life. It's not all about the take. It's not all about trying to find like what I can take away. Just throughout my career, what I've learned is serve first. Be willing and able to help others get where they need to go. And I'm not saying become a doormat. I mean, no one wants to just get walked over, but have a servant mentality where you're genuinely trying to help other people and genuinely trying to learn, but also to give them like what you've learned. That's the best advice I can give, is just be genuine and authentic to who you are. Don't try to be something you're not. And I've really taken that on over the last couple of years. I mean, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. You'll see a lot of content from me that's it's not all pallet related. I mean, there's some pallet information that I put out there, but a lot of times it's about my experiences and what I'm in pursuit of. And I'm genuinely interested in learning from other people what they do, how they do it. And it's not just all supply chain. There are people in many different industries. That's really who I've become at this point, is just trying to be the best version of myself.
For sure. And I think it comes with time that as we go through our careers and our personal lives and whatnot, we start to realize that you get out of something maybe 2x what you put in, but you've got to put in the 1x to begin with. And the returns that you get are not always money in your bank account. It's being able to sleep at night. It's going to bed with a full heart, that knowing that you made a difference or something like that's the stuff that really makes life full.
And it's, I think it's a lot of people struggle when they hear that. They think, oh, that's corny, or that's that they're just saying that. But the truth is that really, when you can go to sleep at night feeling like you accomplished something during the day, that's peace of mind. Waking up knowing like I'm ready to get going here. And it's, you gotta put yourself in the position. You have to put yourself in the position to receive great things, right? You have to, like, by being the best version of yourself, other people are attracted to that. So it's like when you say you get what you give, like you receive a lot by being that genuine, authentic person. And and you'll see the other thing too is you're always being watched. Like not in like a Orwellian type sense, but like you are truly, like, you're always on. Yeah. And if you're not the best version of yourself, when you have an opportunity come to you and that person sees you and they see somebody that's negative or has the victim mentality, and you're not going to receive an opportunity from people who are looking for people to help, to lift up. Like people don't get lucky. I don't believe in luck. I don't believe in coincidence. I truly believe that if you put yourself in the best position to receive, better opportunities and things come your way. So it's crucial for anybody that's, what you could be 70 years old right now and hit that switch and change that, and things start to come your way. And I am proof positive of that for sure. Because when I went through that change, that time period of being laid off and really trying to focus on becoming the best version of myself, a switch went off. Like I changed my whole approach into being a much more positive person. I don't mean fake. I mean like genuinely helping other people and working on who I truly am inside. And it's, I was 40 years old, at that point.
Yeah.
So,
well, I appreciate you coming on and being genuine with us, talking a little about your experience and your expertise. And I'm just really glad to have gotten to meet you at Pack Expo in Chicago not too long ago. And look forward to seeing you around and catching up in the near future.
Yeah, right on. I appreciate you having me on, Nathan. It's a good conversation.
All right. Take care.
All right. See ya.